y'all, and welcome back to another video, and this time I am here to discuss Kingdom Hearts Dark Road. After seeing the mini trailer in the Cage 20th recap video that revealed an August 26th release date for the Dark Road finale, I had some thoughts. More specifically, I had some thoughts about who this blue-hooded figure, or xehanort's caretaker, could possibly be. We first see the blue-hooded figure in the Union Cross finale. There's a scene with the blue-hooded figure taking a baby xehanort from presumably his mother. This takes place in older Scala, and by older Scala, I mean the one that Brain time traveled to at the end of Union Cross, since that Scala and the bright Scala we see young Xehanort and his classmates attending have completely different vibes. Taking a more detailed look at the scene, you see his mother look down fondly at baby Xehanort, but then her expression turns distraught as she hands Xehanort to the blue-hooded figure. And we can also see that the blue-hooded figure is probably an old person, given that they have a cane and are hunched over, as old people do. I know these details are obvious, but I think it's important to consider absolutely everything before we can start speculating candidates for the blue-hooded figure. But anyway, in the next scene, we see the blue-hooded figure holding a baby Xehanort on Destiny Islands, and they're by the area where the shack is in Cage 1. Then we get a time skip. Xehanort is now older, in his teens now I guess, and we see the BHF somewhere off to the side, probably watching over Xehanort. And just as Xehanort stands up, the BHF collapses, most likely indicating that they passed away. Then Xehanort walks away. And then we see a couple more Xehanort scenes when he arrives back in Scala, and that's really it. Now we recently got a tidbit of new information from the Cage 20th recap video. In the very brief trailer at the end, we see the BHF holding a younger Xehanort, not a baby anymore, by a fire at night. If you look in the background, you can see a candle lit inside the shack that we know from Cage 1, and the BHF says, "There's still so much left to tell. Perhaps it's time." Then the figure holds Xehanort closer and looks up at the sky as the younger Xehanort falls asleep in their arms. So let's try to answer our big question of who is the blue-hooded figure? Obviously, it has to be some sort of big reveal because they've been hooded this entire time and we have not seen their face once. All we have is bare hands to go off of. But yeah, I definitely think this is an important and relevant person. Now, the first possible candidate for this BHF is Brain. And this is my guess as well. Why do I think it's Brain? I'll tell you. So going back to when the BHF took Xehanort, we see they're in old Scala, or rather Missing Link Scala. You can obviously tell by the darker color palette. And we know Brain time traveled to this time period at the end of Union Cross, and we can assume he stayed and lived there. And we also see him in the Missing Link trailer, and as we already know, Missing Link is, well, the missing link between Union Cross and Dark Road, given that it takes place in between these periods. So the BHF being Brain makes a lot of sense, really. And when you look at the woman who gave Xehanort to the BHF, she looks quite similar to Brain. And if they're related, it makes even more sense that she would give him away like that. I can't say she was super willing to give Xehanort away because what mother wants to be separated from their newborn child, but from the way she just handed him to the BHF, we can assume that the two are at least familiar with each other, and the BHF doesn't seem to be an antagonist, especially seeing how the BHF takes care and watches over Xehanort. And for the most part, we know that Brain doesn't have evil intentions, and I have to emphasize for the most part, because there's still much more we need to know. The BHF also seems to be a knowledgeable character given by their lines. There's still so much to tell. And our boy Brain has been through a lot and has presumably lived a long life. And one last piece of potential evidence is the scene in Dark Road where Xehanort and Brain, to their own surprise, make the same quote. "Darkness can hide anywhere, even inside someone," as said by Brain in Union Cross. Xehanort probably knows that quote because of the BHF, aka Brain, and Ericus knows that quote because Brain is his grandfather. And yes, it's not 100% confirmed Brain is Ericus' grandfather, but the implications are there, i.e. their physical similarities and that Ericus inherited the Master Defender, originally owned by Brain, although given to Ephemer. And although the scene alludes to some sort of connection between them and Brain, this is actually where my theory falls off. How could Brain have learned that quote from his grandfather, who we think is Brain, if the BHF left for Destiny Islands? And we could assume Ericus and Xehanort are close in age, which means if Xehanort was a baby at the time, so was Ericus, or not even born yet, and he couldn't have learned that quote. The only possible explanation is that Ericus learned that quote from the woman who gave away Xehanort. And remember when I said the woman looks similar to Brain? So she also looks similar to Ericus, leading to the implication that they're all related. The woman could be Brain's daughter, and it would make sense for her to learn stuff from Brain and then pass that knowledge on to her child. And there's another thing. If that's all true, that means Ericus and Xehanort might be related as well. and they look nothing alike. Not to say that all siblings should look alike anyway, but maybe Xehanort was adopted, or maybe Xehanort just got the entirety of his dad's genes. And honestly, if that's the case, why did the woman have to give Xehanort away? Now, I don't know birthdays or anything, but maybe the woman had to give him away for whatever reason and then decide to have another baby, which would be Ericus. I also want to note that Ericus doesn't know what happened to his grandfather, which then leads me to think that he probably did learn that quote from his mother instead. And the reason why he doesn't know what happened to his grandfather is because the BHF left for Destiny Islands. But despite the current lack of information, I do think that Brain is a very likely candidate for the BHF. Now, let's talk about other people's guesses that I haven't really looked into until now. One answer I saw was Ephemer, and my response to that is, I don't think so. So we know Brain time travels to the future and ends up in Old Scala, and in that scene at the end of Union Cross, we see a statue of Ephemer. We also see it in the Missing Link trailer. Sigurd tells us that Ephemer is the founder of Scala, the first Keyblade master, and I don't know about y'all, but don't they usually build statues for dead people? Now, Ephemer could still be alive, but I don't know. I do believe he had passed on at that point, especially from how in the Missing Link trailer they say life was passed down time and time again until the land was filled with thriving people. To me, that means a very long time has passed. So the BHF can't be Ephemer because, well, he's dead. Now, I know there's a rebuttal for this. What if Brain time traveled to when Xehanort was just born? Or what if Xehanort was born before Ephemer died? As far as we know, Scala was still looking the same as when Xehanort was given away. Ephemer could very well be the BHF, and everything would still make sense. We don't know the connection between Ephemer and the woman, but because he's the founder, he's probably friendly with everyone, and the woman probably trusts him a lot to take care of her son. So with this answer, I really have no issue with it. All we need to know is the timeline of Ephemer's death, Brain's arrival, and Xehanort's birth. So another answer I saw was Ava. Now I will say that as far as we know, the BHF is gender neutral, so Ava is a possibility in that regard. And because we don't know what happened to Ava after the Keyblade War and she can shapeshift and all that, it's a maybe. But I think because we know so little, there's nothing I can say for or against that theory. All I know is that some people think Kyrie's grandma is Ava, and because we saw the BHF perish, that probably wouldn't be true anymore. But if y'all have any more fleshed out arguments for Ava, feel free to let me know in the comments. Okay, those are all the thoughts I have. Hopefully this is okay for my first Kingdom Hearts discussion / speculation / theory video. I plan on doing more in the future as long as my head still looks like this every time I think about Kingdom Hearts. But thank you for listening, and I hope you're just as excited for the Dark Road finale as I am. See y'all in the next one!